way to Westminster. I'm going to give evidence at a parliamentary committee about the quality of apprenticeships in the UK. Reason for being called up, it's not like I'm in trouble or anything like that. It's not a Philip Green situation. It is more about we were asked in the industry to give our thoughts on the quality of apprenticeships and how it can be improved. And a number of people put submissions in, including myself. They read mine, I had a lot to say, and so consequently they have asked me to go in and participate in a formal debate really and evidence giving session about my views on the state of the apprenticeship market in the UK and how we can improve things. I think it's a really good news story, to be honest with you. You only have to go and look at the US and see how advanced we are in the UK. It's amazing that we've now got two such viable opportunities for young people, but also for individuals that are at work already, might be stuck in a rut, want to upskill, want to change their career, and also for employers who can't find the talent they want, but they've got some great people working for them. You know, the apprenticeship scheme gives them the opportunity to basically upskill the people they've got and take your young people in. Right, I need some porridge though, so I'm going to go in there and get some now. That's that done on this, and then has some brain power. And I'm just going in there very much with the view that it can be made better. It's good. The whole apprenticeship system is good, but there are definitely some things that can be improved. If you can run a business, you know, my situation where I've been 20 years in corporate, 16 years having run a business in the recruitment world, you can run a business where, you know, the business is growing, you're creating a great environment for people that work for you, and you're making a huge difference every single day. To me, that's the panacea. That's lovely.
Don't you actually get nervous?
I don't usually get nervous, but in this particular case, well, number one, I haven't done it before. You know, in such a formal fashion. I've met ministers, I've met the Prime Minister, you know, having a one-to-one conversation or a group conversation, even presenting is absolutely fine. But with this, you know, it's a pretty serious thing. There's a transcript, so every single word you say, every and is going to be written down. It's filmed and pumped all across the House of Parliament. It's recorded, so anyone can go online. If you're listening to this, you can go online and click and listen to it all. And it's also televised live on BBC. So consequently, I do not want to look an idiot. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous, but look, I'm just going to go in there with one intention, and that is to improve the quality of apprenticeships in this country, and that's all I'm really bothered about, and the rest of it will just follow on.
Word.
Normally huge queue, so if you've come here for a meeting, you have to take this into account, all these people. So. Westminster Hall. Emily knows where we're going because she used to work here. Barack Obama addressed people on those steps up there. Queen sometimes. Yeah. It's a bit chilly. Cold.
Please introduce yourself and your organisation.
Yep, my name is Angela Middleton. I have a company called Middleton Murray. We place young people into their first jobs and then deliver apprenticeships. We prepare them beforehand. Primarily, we work with 16 to 18-year-olds. At any one time, we have about 1,000 young people on our programmes, over about 400 employers. National with 14 branches, one branch in the USA as well. I've written a book, how to get your first job and build the career you want. Another one about bridging the gap, which is aimed at teaching staff. And also have a weekly podcast called I Want to Be A, which is a careers podcast for young people. It has to be the right apprenticeship for all stakeholders, so it has to be right for the learner in terms of their life goals and to help them along that pathway to achieve what they want to achieve in their life. It has to be right for the employer. The employer is obviously seeking talent and succession planning in their business, so it has to give them that. Obviously, the UK is seeking increased productivity, so that's what we're looking for there. It has to impart skills, both hard and soft skills, for the person who's actually carrying out the apprenticeship. And of course it has to tick all of the boxes in terms of compliance, timeliness, completion, etc. I think it comes down to education of that employer very often, particularly if you're talking about a new young entrant into the business, and particularly if you're talking about a small business, an SME employer.
Who does the education of the employer?
And very much so that comes down to the training provider, the college, who actually outlines the opportunity, but also the challenges that will be, anticipated, and holds the hand of the employer as well as the individual who's actually carrying out the apprenticeship.
Why is it that there are so many providers that are neither not good or outstanding? What's going wrong?
I think Ofsted has a capacity issue. I think, having been on the receiving end of Ofsted, they've inspected us 3 times. Each time, we've achieved a grade good, and it's been an extremely thorough experience. They come 5-handed for a business of our size. I have 136 staff, and they each have their own agenda, and they spend 4 days, and they absolutely rigorously look at everything. That takes time, effort, money, and I think one of the big issues is that a number of providers are just not inspected frequently enough. So many years can go by, contracts can get huge, and then consequently we have the fallout. One of the things that I think it should definitely be considered is every single provider in college should be compelled to put aside some funds to actually pay for an inspection such as Ofsted in the same way that we do for asbestos in people, ISO, actually pay for that inspection to take place at the end of every year, because what I've experienced, although it is, pretty hairy when they give you no notice and they turn up and they speak to everybody to sort of triangulate everything, once they go, what you're left with is a very, very clear picture of room for areas for improvement, and so you feel like you've had some fantastic consultancy, and it is effectively free of charge. And I think that every organisation who's on that list ought to be compelled to pay for their own officer inspection, and for that to take place every year.
What are the greatest challenges in delivering those high quality apprenticeships of which we're talking about, Angela?
I think very often it depends on the age group that you're working with, because for us we focus very much new young entrants into the world of work, so 16 to 18-year-olds, many of whom come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And so what you're actually, the first challenge you have is preparing them for work. And then secondly, when you can do that, we can do that very effectively now. We do use the traineeship model. We work with lots of SMEs who are willing to give a young person an opportunity. But once they actually get over the hurdle, they shine at interview, they get that job, they start their apprenticeship, the novelty of that can often wear off, and then you're struggling with a retention problem. So that's a big challenge for us, and so we've put lots of things in place to improve that, including something that we've branded 0 to degree, whereby we actually set out very clear milestones, 13-week milestones with the young person, with the employer, and attached to that are salary increases.
Okay.
And the idea of that is they actually stay with that employer for 5 years, during which time they go from level 2 or 3 up to degree level, and if they do achieve that whole programme, they would be on the equivalent of 31,500 by the time they're 21, which is on a parity with a grad leaver. Yeah. There is no need to really discuss funding with apprentices at all. One of the things that has really helped in our business is a couple of years ago we went completely paperless. E-portfolio, there is no paper in the business whatsoever. It means that all stakeholders can actually go into this e-portfolio, they can all see all the content of the work that's being taken place by the apprentice. Everybody can have input. They can view what, and it's great for quality, because if auditors or Ofsted come in, it's there. It's all completely transparent. But equally, if this is life and business, and sometimes businesses do fail. But your clients, i.e., your apprentices, all of their information is there if everybody goes paperless, and I think that's another thing that ought to be compelled, with providers, a certain standard of automation. Yeah. In readiness for the future when everything is going to be automated.
As you know, in my previous role I visited your what you do, your Middleton Murray, and it was incredibly impressive what you did for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, and that you had a conveyor belt right from school to adult. Could you just set out what you do and how it could be replicated, particularly in terms of providing quality apprentices with disadvantage and getting more disadvantaged people to do apprenticeships?
Well, there are two distinct sides of the business. One is working very much with employers and basically creating opportunities, what we call the hidden job market. So, and that's a lot of work really to work with these employers. And I do, on a separate point, I am concerned about the neglect of SMEs. Because if you don't knock on their door and tell them about apprenticeships, they don't suddenly come up with an opportunity because they don't know about it, and yet there's all these golden opportunities there for youngsters and stepping stones to big businesses. But the other side of it is to attract young people into these opportunities is quite difficult to start off with, because they just, number one, they don't have aspirations. They don't have the careers advice, but they don't even have the aspirations, and even if they do, they have no idea about how to go about achieving them. And so there needs to be a lot of outreach to them. That means to sort of visit schools and talk to youngsters when they're quite early on, before they're totally disengaged with schools. But all the other referral organisations, looked after children departments, local authorities, etc., and encourage them about the opportunities. That's the reason for the podcast, etc. Bring them into our open days. We use tons of social media on every single social media platform, so Snapchat, which is where they are, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Sometimes, you know, you can attract their parents to refer them, but eventually bring them into a very low pressure situation, an open day, where we literally talk about the opportunities and the fact that there is this traineeship programme, which consists of, it's 12 weeks, there's 6 weeks in the classroom, where they are suited and booted in a working environment, but they are in the classroom the whole time. And and then 6 weeks paid work experience, and thereafter we close that programme down, and then we start an apprenticeship programme if it's appropriate. During that 6 weeks with us, though, we completely transform these individuals in terms of their aspirations and their confidence. It's amazing to see. We start off with things that, you know, are not mainstream. Visualisation about how their life could be. We get them to really think about the house they could live in, the partner they're going to have, the clothes they might wear, the car they may drive, the holidays they'll go on, you know, and create this mood board of what their life can be like. When you get that and you start to show individuals then the steps from here to there of how the light bulbs go on, they can suddenly realise, wow, I could achieve that. I never thought I could achieve that. Okay, I will now do my maths functional skill. I will do my English. I will do everything you tell me to do, because I can see that this works. So then what we do is we, at the end of that period, when they're ready to deliver their elevator pitches, and they now know, we make sense of the world of work, so they now know the type of niche that they actually is going to suit their life goals. We bring employers in, and we have a sort of a dragon's den arrangement. We chaperone the interviews. The employers come in one at a time. Groups of youngsters come up, they deliver their elevator pitch, and you see employers say, wow, he's good, she's great. We then bring them up for a second interview, and then an offer of paid work experience is given more or less then and there. They start the following Monday. They do then a 6-week period of paid work experience, which we facilitate and safeguard during that period. 9 times out of 10, both parties are happy with it. And this is the work that could be done in schools. It actually is part of the curriculum. You know, it doesn't need to be an extra burden. If we can just change the way that we talk to pupils at a very early age about their long-term life goals, and then fit education within that, so that they can see that it is, you know, it is a stepping stone for them. And not sort of feel that I just need to get this out of the way and then I can start life. It's just a different way of framing it. And I just a very quick question, point really about looked after children. You know, you've got 10,000 leaving every year, 2,500 in London, and we're completely open with our applicants. Anybody can join our programmes. There's no minimum levels whatsoever. We get hardly any applications from looked after children group, despite all the work with the local authorities. The reason is that their housing benefit gets taken away if they join an apprenticeship programme. It's something that could be so simply addressed and open up opportunities for social mobility that way. I went out there just now and I asked the people what they're marching for. I said, is it university fees? And they said, yeah. Oh no, it's not. It's about teachers' pay and conditions. And I think that freedom of speech is obviously an amazing thing. And can you come down and have a look out there with the camera or not? Look, I mean, obviously it costs this country a lot of time and effort to allow something like this to
to take place. But how brilliant that, you know, we've got freedom of speech in this country, and we can protest and stand up for what we believe in. The only thing I would say is that, you know, I wonder how many people in that march actually are marching for the right reason, because they understand it, because the guy I spoke to didn't. But that chap in there with the picket, look, if you turn around and show, he definitely knows all about it. That's our Dave. Dave knows what he's talking about.